Welcome back to Donington Park, the Radical UK Cup, about to get underway for a 50-minute race. Ben Jackson and Terence Woodward sitting there on the front row of the grid. A rolling start for this one as well. When the lights go out, jinking over to the left-hand side of the circuit goes Derek Johnson, the current championship leader, but it's a great start from the front row of the grid for Ben Jackson. Derek Johnson coming right the way around the outside, though, from the second row of the grid. Also sneaking through is Terence Woodward, that number 88 car. He's through into second place, and Ben Jackson down into third, in danger of dropping to fourth if he's not very careful. In fact, he almost is in fourth place. Roger Bromley, that is, who is trying to thread his way through and has made it through as well. So the pole sitter down to fourth position off the start. The red car that sits there in fifth position is another one of the 2.6-litre PowerTech engine Radical SR8s, that one driven by Nick Adcock. But Derek Johnson, having claimed the championship last year, sprinting away in the lead of the race in the early stages of this one. There is Ben Jackson. Shoddy start from him from pole position. He's got plenty of time, however, to try and make his way up through the order. Looks as though very slow out of the chicane there was Terence Woodward. He's lost a position to Roger Bromley. As Roger Bromley now heads down into the Melbourne hairpin, he's taken the lead of the race. Derek Johnson has tumbled down through the order somewhere. And as they head up towards the braking area for Goddard's corner, it's Roger Bromley that leads. Ben Jackson now up into second position. Through the old hairpin they go. Under the Starkey's bridge, there's a squeal of tyres behind, and off goes Manhalalos. A spin for him. Thankfully, he's avoided the gravel trap. The safety car coming out as a result, which has now gone back in towards the pit lane. So we go green flag racing once more as they charge down towards Redgate corner. Derek Johnson trying to feed his way through. Ben Jackson trying to get up the inside. Derek Johnson closes the door on him. And as they make their way up onto the top of the Craner curves, it's still Roger Bromley that leads. Derek Johnson has managed to find his way through into second place once more, with Nick Adcock, the all-red car, sitting there in third place, ahead of Ben Jackson and Terence Woodward, who completes the top five. We ride on board now with Derek Johnson. Just listen to the 2.6-litre V8 PowerTech engine. Very close indeed. He's getting towards the rear end of Roger Bromley, and as they make their way out of McLean's up towards Coppice corner, Derek Johnson has positioned the car superbly well this time to try and get a run as they come down the straight. Roger Bromley will try and stick to the left-hand side of the circuit. Derek Johnson briefly lifts the throttle, jinks to the right-hand side. They get to the braking area for the left and right chicane. Derek Johnson, the local man from just down the road at Nottingham, takes the lead of the race. Great manoeuvre that from the outside line. Problems there for somebody pulling off with a rather smoky-looking car. Not entirely sure whom that is. That looks as though it's Tom Ashton who's retired the car. So Tom Ashton out of a very smoky-looking PR6. So therefore Gary Kane will get no opportunity to drive that car. And now a very busy pit lane at Donington Park. All mandatory pit stops. Everybody has to come into the pits and change drivers or remain in the car if they are soulless drivers. Now coming into the pits is Ben Jackson. Watch out for him, because relative to the others, Ben Jackson has a subtle advantage. He can remain in the car because he drives on his own, where the others have to change driver. Well, having taken the lead of the race, Derek Johnson has just lost it again. Through and ahead of them, very smoky car coming into the pit lane. That looks as though it is a car that started towards the front of the grid. Number 9, Bob George, brings the smoky SR8 down the pits. And as the pit stops continue, Ben Jackson in the lead of the race, now coming under pressure from Rob Weldon, who cuts back on the exit of Redgate corner and is trying to take the lead of the race if at all possible. He's made it through and taken the lead of the race. So Rob Weldon it is now that's taken over the number 14 car from Roger Bromley during the pit stop window. He leads the race. He is classed as a pro driver, works for Radical Sports Cars, and the pairing of Rob Weldon and Roger Bromley has yet to take a victory so far this season in the 2009 Radical UK Cup, are about to claim their first one of the season. Through they go and claim victory here at Donington Park. Absolutely delighted Rob Weldon will be. Highly delighted Derek Johnson will be. So Bromley and Weldon claim victory with Ben Jackson in second. Championship leader and local man Derek Johnson is third, with Woodward and Kaiser fourth. Nick Adcock and Vignali in fifth place, and Freeman and Williams completing the top six. So race 2 about to get underway, another 50-minute race, and this time lining up on pole position is the number 14 car of Roger Bromley, Ben Jackson, number 27. Alongside them, row 2 of the grid is where we see Derek Johnson, the reigning champion, local man from Nottingham. And on the outside of that second row is car number 88, that's driven by Terence Woodward. He will share the car once more with the very rapid Ross Kaiser, the two of those having claimed their first victory of the season at Brands Hatch at the previous round of the Radical UK Cup. Onto the inside of the third row of the grid, Massimo Vignali starts at the wheel of the number 20 car with Tony Freeman at the wheel of the yellow number 7 PR6. A rolling start once more, let's not forget. So they now feed their way on towards Goddard's. The red lights will come on. The safety car pulls off the circuit. And when the lights go out, they will all charge down towards Redgate Corner for the first time, which is what Derek Johnson is trying to do. He's on the grass on the left-hand side of the circuit. There's a slight amount of contact. Grass goes everywhere as Derek Johnson goes fly mowing over the outer sections of the circuit. He finds his way back onto the track. However, he's lost several positions in the process and is now well and truly mixed up with the Super Sports class cars. We ride on board with Ross Edwards as he finds his way down through the Craner curves for the first time. Up the inside of Michael Jackson, Ben's father, he goes. And that looks like a very smoky car in the background. We'll try and pick out whom that is. Gets very, very tight indeed as Ross Edwards trying to pick his way through and past the Andrew and Jeremy Ferguson driven car. It looks as though also sliding up the inside has gone Mike Gardner in the black number 2 machine. I think Nigel Greensall has also made it through as well. So a few places lost there for Ross Edwards. Down towards the Melbourne hairpin for the first time they make their way. And it is Terence Woodward that has been leading. He's just run wide on the exit of the corner, allowed Ben Jackson to sneak through and gain the lead of the race. He fights back on the run up towards Goddard's this time. Full and varied field of Radical UK Cup competitors with a mixture of the 2.6 litre SR8s, the 1500 Suzuki engine SR3s and the 1500 Suzuki engine PR6s. But it is the SR8s all out in front. Ben Jackson from Terence Woodward, and there the number 14 car of Roger Bromley, having secured victory in the first race of the weekend. What can the pairing of Roger Bromley and Rob Weldon do in this second race? They're in third place and pushing very hard indeed. Terence Woodward, number 88, ahead of them. There goes Derek Johnson, still depositing grass following his subtle excursion at the start. And as we now ride on board with Derek Johnson, let's have a look at exactly what happened at the start. The lights go out. Derek Johnson accelerates, tries to find a gap. Squeezed by Roger Bromley. He's on the grass then. There's a subtle amount of contact. And you can see exactly how much grass not only will have gone up onto the camera, but how much probably would have gone into the radiator grills as well. So there may be problems with overheating for Derek Johnson. Looking down at the battle at the front end of the Super Sports class, there goes the car that's currently third in that class, Mike Gardner, being hassled by Colin Noble. We ride on board with Ross Edwards, who sits behind Colin Noble now. And there is the class leader. That's Nigel Greensall chasing him down, who shares the car with Humaid Al Masood this weekend. And it's Paul Thomas in the car ahead that currently leads the Super Sports class for the SR3s. Once more on board with Ross Edwards. There's Colin Noble starting to have a look at trying to steal third place away from Mike Gardner. He's made it through on the way into the Melbourne hairpin. Can he hang on to it on the way out? The answer is yes, he can. And therefore Colin Noble, the Scotsman, slides through up into third place in the class. This is the battle for the class lead, however. Paul Thomas and Nigel Greensall fighting tooth and nail over the lead of that class. And as they make their way over the start-finish line once more, a queue of other Super Sports cars lining up behind them. Quick look up the inside goes Malhalalos. We saw him have a spin earlier on. He's now slowly feeding his way up through the order. He is, however, in an SR8, so he's not battling for class position. I think there was a subtle amount of contact there between Malhalalos and the class leader, Paul Thomas, who's compromised slightly through and up the inside. No second opportunity needed for Nigel Greensall. He takes the lead of the class lead just as Gary Kane spins down at the old hairpin. Let's hope he can get the car fired back into life again. Looks as though there may be a little amount of damage to the rear end of that one. Yeah, a puncture was what caused the spin for Gary Kane. Now, will he continue round to the pits, or will he decide to park the car? Well, with the tyre flapping at the bodywork, I'm sure Gary Kane will park the car and decide that it's best not to damage the car and opt to retire. The battle at the front still very close indeed. It's still Derek Johnson and Roger Bromley squabbling. The red car of Massimo Vignali sitting right behind them as well. And that's our camera car. Ross Edwards is off the circuit somewhere. He clambers out of the car. He's absolutely fine. Our ever-efficient marshals on hand. So the race leader, Derek Johnson, with Roger Bromley still closing as close as he possibly can to him. Massimo Vignali just dropping away subtly in third place. And we're now just about to head in towards the pit stop windows. We ride on board with Ross Edwards. Let's see what the problem was. We're behind Colin Noble. We can also see Paul Thomas is there. Ross Edwards tries to get up the inside of Colin Noble. Paul Thomas ahead. Squabbling for the lead of the class. And as they turn through the second section of the chicane, there's contact with Colin Noble. And bang into the barriers for Ross Edwards.